everyone. Welcome to the Magnetic Resonance Imaging Information Session. Before we get started, the British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. I'd like to welcome you all for attending this lovely afternoon. I'm Julie. I'm one of the marketing coordinators for the School of Health Sciences. Here with me is Darren Ton and Aaron Ruggieri. They're also to help administer the event. Maggie is here from Program Advising. She's an advisor. She will be on the chat, available to answer any questions you may have. And last but not least, we have Ray Lee, the program head, who will be doing our presentation. And now over to you, Ray.
Thank you, Julie. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us and with presenting the magnetic resonance imaging info session. We're going to start off with a quick poll just to kind of test your knowledge. So the question is, what does a patient have to wear when they get an MRI? All right, great. So we'll stop the poll there. So about over half of us picked earplugs, which is the correct answer. So if you've had an MRI before, or if you've done a little bit of research into the field, you should know that the magnet is very noisy as it takes its pictures, and that's just due to the varying electrical or magnetic field. So we have to protect our patients' hearings by giving them earplugs and headphones. So on the next slide, we're just going to introduce what is MRI, just to give everyone just a quick background on what it is. So it is a fast-growing modality. In terms of when it was introduced, it was about the mid-1980s. So compared to X-ray, CT, nuclear medicine, ultrasound, it is quite in this infancy stage, which means that there are a lot of advancements happening every year with MRI and its technology and what it's capable of doing. So what it's generally really great for is that it's really good for imaging soft tissue structures, organs, neurological studies, and looking at pathologies that can't be seen with other imaging modalities. The great thing about MRI as well is that it can image anything from the head to the toe. So it's usually really good for ordering doctors and radiologists to order MRIs in order to look at soft tissue structures and pathologies anywhere in the body. These images are very high resolution and high quality imaging, and it can be acquired in different planes, just like a CT scan. So on the slide deck that you see, we're looking at the brain from a top-down view or an axial plane. So we can look at things from top down, from the side, so left to right, and also from the front to the back. In MRI, we can make different tissues look different. So we can make fatty tissues look brighter dark, or water tissues brighter dark, in order to see the anatomy that we're interested in, or to see if the pathology shows itself in different weightings, is what we call it in MRI. So to give a quick I guess introduction to actually how the MRI works is that it uses all the water molecules in your body. So it uses those protons that are in your body. And your body's made out of, a huge percentage of your body's made out of water. So what we do is we lay the patient down on the table, as you see, and then we feed them into the big magnet. So when the water goes into this really strong external magnet, it aligns all of your protons. And then in order to image each molecule, then we introduce a radio frequency, just like a radio, to interact with those protons, and then the energy is released, and then we get a nice image. So the great thing about MRI as well is that there is no ionizing radiation like X-ray or CT. So it is fairly safe in that respect for the patient, but it's also really safe for the MRI technologist, because we are not in an environment where we could have accidental radiation exposure. So on the next slide here, we're going to go into two different program pathways depending on what your level of education is. So for our pathways, we have a advanced certificate program and a diploma program. So Julie, if you just want to put up that next slide there. Perfect. So for the advanced certificate, these are going to be this credential is going to be for those who already work in a imaging modality such as sonography, medical radiography or X-ray, nuclear medicine, or radiation therapy. So this credential is all online, and it is a part-time or flexible learning program at BCIT. And then the other pathway is our 2-year diploma program, which is in person and full-time. And this is going to be for students or applicants who do not possess a diploma or degree in the imaging modality and do not have any previous healthcare experience. So the next slide here, we're going to go into our advanced certificate program first, and then our diploma program after. So the MRI advanced certificate is going to be for those technologists, like I said, who are already working in a imaging modality, but they want to advance your career in terms of getting into the MRI field. You need to be able to work independently or as part of a team, because we are a modality that works shift times. So we work 24/7 at most sites. So that requires us to work independently or as well as part of a larger healthcare team during the day. And you should be able to work under pressure, as there is a lot of interaction with the patients. The patients are going through a very long exam where they're going through a very small tunnel to get our imaging done. And the doctors are usually pressing for our images as they are time sensitive. So you should be able to work under that pressure. And as stated below, you need to have the diploma degree in one of the 4 imaging modalities. And you need to be a active member with the CMRT or Sonography Canada, which is the regulating body for the above 4 imaging modalities. And last but not least, we need to ensure that you are safe to work in the MRI environment. So that means that we need for you to fill out a MRI screening safety form, which will ask you questions about your medical history, any implants you have in your body that would stop you from working in the MRI environment, which has that really strong magnetic field. Some other things that we want to keep in mind of is that since we are working in mostly a hospital setting, but not confined to that, because there are clinics that you can also work at and also research facilities or even sales, is that a lot of hospital sites do work with acute patients, such as trauma patients, stroke victims, intensive care unit patients come down for MRIs. So you just want to be sure that the healthcare environment is for you before getting into this program. So we'll go to the next slide. So this program is part of the flexible learning portfolio of BCIT. So it is a part-time online program. It consists of 6 online courses that are 12 weeks in length. And you will also be completing a 16-week clinical term at one of our partner sites all across Canada. You can also continue to complete the Bachelor's of Health Science with the MRI option, which is a really good kind of laddering pathway to get your additional credential at the bachelor's or degree level. And then there's also a bursary from BCIT that is available for students who have 2 or less courses in the program. And this is done through the Ministry of Health to help out with the shortages of MRI technologists that we're seeing across BC. So it's a really good opportunity right now to get into the program where the ministry is providing financial help for these students looking to get into the MRI field. And the next slide here, we will go into the entrance requirements. So there's academic and non-academic entrance requirements. So the entrance requirements for the flexible learning or that part-time studies program is 2 years of education in English with a mark of 67% in English Studies 12, or the equivalent 3 credits of post-secondary English. And from our poll, it seems like there's there'd be a big amount of you that would have that post-secondary English. And then as your post-secondary education, that diploma or degree in medical radiography, nuclear medicine, sonography, or radiation therapy. On the next slide, we'll go under the non-academic entrance requirements. So as we were talking about before, the MRI safety screening form, just to make sure that you are safe to work in the MRI environment, is required. And then also the current active registration with the CMRT or Sonography Canada, which you would possess after completing one of the diploma degree programs in the 4 imaging modalities that were previously discussed. On the next slide, we're just going to go over a few of the program details. So we have 3 intakes during the year. We have a winter term, spring term, and fall term with the start and end months as stated there. So we intake January, April, and September. And you are free to apply all year round before one of the terms starts. So the maximum time to complete the program is 3 years. And it is recommended that you do complete all your 6 theory courses within 2 years, though, just to make sure that you're linking your theory to your clinical practice is within a reasonable time frame. And then you will enroll in your 16-week clinical, usually right after your last theory course, but we really highly recommend that within 2 terms of completing all of your theory courses, that you do enroll into your clinical 16-week term. And on the next slide, we're going to go over the application steps. So there will be a review of the requirements and the application dates, and then you will complete your required forms, convert all your documents to PDF, and then you will apply online at the program website. There is a link there, and then that's where you can submit all of your supporting documentation, and then this gets reviewed by the program just to make sure everything is in line, especially any of the specific MRI requirements, such as the MRI safety screening form. And then once you're done applying, the application fee is for domestic students is $90 Canadian. And if you have any questions about the process, program advising can assist you with any questions you have during the application process. So on the next slide, we pretty much went over what the that's a slide here. Yeah. So actually, I think this is duplicated, so we're just going to skip that. So the admission process, I think we went through this already. So the admissions will review your application, we'll forward it to the program. We will look at the documents, and then once accepted, then admissions will send the acceptance letters to the applicants. Okay, so that covers the part-time studies or flexible learning advanced certificate program with the MRI advanced certificate. So now we will be jumping into the MRI diploma program, which is that 2-year full-time diploma on campus. So what this entails is a 1 year of academics on campus, and then 1 year of a clinical placement through various sites in BC, which includes external rotations in the hospitals and in other specialty areas. The clinical placements are offered around BC, and the program is only open for BC residents only. So the next slide, we're going to go into, I guess, the start date. This is a brand new credential with MRI. Generally, MRI education is delivered through the online platform, which is that flexible learning or part-time studies kind of delivery mode. The in-person MRI diploma program is brand new to BCIT. This is the second in-person on-campus MRI diploma program in Canada. So we're very excited to be able to launch this at BCIT. So the start date of our new credential will be January 2023, and all seats have been filled for that offering. So we will be shortly be accepting applications for the January 2024 start. You can see the application periods in the right column. So we are going to have multiple rounds of applications, with the first round starting January 4th, 2023. until May 15th, 2023. And then if we don't have seats available, then we will open up the second round of applications, which will run from May 16th till September 15th. And then if seats are not filled at that point, then we will have a third round until all seats are filled. A complete application is required for you to be offered a seat. So all supporting documents by the deadline date should be handed in. And the cohort size for each intake is 12 seats. So it is quite competitive. Just to give you an idea of the competitive, I guess, nature of the program, with it being the first intake January 2023, is that we had about a 3-to-1 ratio where we had 3 complete applications to 1 seat in the program. So there is definitely a interest for this MRI diploma program. So if we think back to the requirements for the advanced certificate, where you need to spend that 2 years or so to obtain that diploma in a imaging modality before getting to MRI, this is a really nice way for applicants and prospective students to be able to take the MRI program without having to get a diploma in a different modality, and then spending the time to get to go through all the MRI courses. So this shortcuts that by about half the time, and the instruction is all on campus, which is really nice. And then your clinical term is 48 weeks versus 16 weeks. So we can send these students to different sites to have a more robust and fulfilling clinical experience. So the diploma program, we're expecting it to be quite competitive each year. So on the next slide, the application steps are quite similar to the advanced certificates, with the exception of a couple of additional forms that we will need, which we'll go over later, and Casper and Snapshot. So Casper and Snapshot are tools that the program and other programs at BCIT use in order to test 10 core healthcare competencies. So it's kind of like the interview process, but it's not done in person. So this tool will really help us look at applicants as a whole, and it helps us compare scores to individuals that had written the same exam. So it really gives us a really nice look at, if you meet the 10 core competencies of a healthcare worker, and will aid us in our application selection process. So on the next slide, the academic and non-academic entrance requirements are also a little bit different. Since this is a first discipline program or diploma program, the English Studies 12 at 73% is still a requirement. And of course, there are the post-secondary equivalencies to all of the grade 12 courses. The program will require pre-calculus 12 at 73%. Physics 12 at 73%, and anatomy and physiology 12 at 73%. The recency for shortlisting for the program entrance will be 5 years. So it would be best if you had all of the academic entrance requirements within the last 5 years. As for the non-academic requirements, we have that same MRI safety screening form. And then the 2 additional forms are the physical and program requirements form and the mandatory applicant questionnaire. So the physical and program requirement form is just an acknowledgement from yourself to know that our line of work is quite physical, whether that's transferring patients around or working with the MRI equipment. And then the program requirements is the clinical piece, where saying that, that you may be sent to different clinical sites across the Lower Mainland, across BC, and that you're aware of the kind of costs and the stipulations behind that. And then the mandatory applicant questionnaire is 4 general questions, just to get to know you a little bit better, to kind of see what your background is, if you have any healthcare experience, what are your strengths, what your previous education has been, and how that may aid you in this program. And then the Casper computer-based assessments, once again, and the Snapshot is just for the program to get a better idea of what your verbal, nonverbal communication skills are, and then also to test those 10 core healthcare competencies. So I believe Darren had put a link in the chat for the Casper and Snapshot websites. You will have to register for this test because they do have specific right dates. So you'll have to register for a right date and then write the Casper and do the Snapshot testing both on the same day. Okay, so the next form here is your transcripts and documents. So this we'll just go over how to upload your digital copies. So you can scan or take a picture of your transcripts, upload them into your application. So same rules as before. We like PDFs, we like complete applications. And then if you are already a BCIT student, we do have your official transcript on file, and admissions would be able to access your BCIT records straight from their side. And the next slide here is really a duplication of what we were going through with the advanced certificate, but the process is the same. So admissions will review your application and make sure that it is complete for us as the MRI program to review. And then since this is a competitive entrance to the diploma program, we do quite an extensive review of all the applicants, including all the submissions through BCIT and Casper and Snapshot. And then once we have picked our conditional acceptances into our diploma program, which is the 12 seats, then admissions will send acceptance letters to those applicants. And then at that point, then you would submit the remaining documentation and pay the commitment fee. Okay, and the next slide here is just a quick slide just to remind that, just like in anywhere in healthcare, MRI technologists are in very high demand. As of right now, there are about 20 to 30 openings in the Lower Mainland and about 40 to 45 job openings in BC for an MRI technologist. So as of right now, it is a great time to get into the program. The clinical sites are always looking for BCIT graduates. So it's a great time to get in, especially with some of the funding availabilities that are out there right now. So especially in BC, it's a lot of need. The pay, because I know that's a question that that will be asked or that should have been researched. So the pay scale is generally about $36 to about $44 in the hospital as of now. Like I said, you can also work in the clinics, which pay a little bit more on top of that. And then there are also other opportunities such as medical sales, performing research MRI, things like that. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can go through if you don't want to necessarily work in the hospital full time. There's a lot of different ways that we can kind of go about using our MRI, our knowledge, and our graduates kind of find themselves in different parts. So our next slide here, we have a couple of testimonials from graduates. So Julie will just play the first one here.
Hello everyone, my name is Armand and I'm a recent graduate of the MRI program at BCIT. I just wanted to take this time to share a couple things about the program. First and foremost, I liked how each module and course was set up as a building block towards your clinical session and ultimately becoming an MRI technologist. As a practicing MRI technologist, I really enjoy working with a vast diversity of people from neonates to geriatrics, especially in finding a diagnosis for their symptoms or their disease. I hope this little snippet helps you in your journey in becoming an MRI technologist. I wish you all the best.
So Harman is a advanced certificate graduate. So he went through the first stream that we were talking about at the beginning of the presentation. So he went through the online courses and completed a 16-week clinical and had recently graduated successfully, writing the national certification exam. And next slide, we actually have another testimonial. Her name is Cassidy. She's actually here on the call here right now. So I will quickly pass it on to her to kind of let her kind of explain what her experience was through the advanced certificate program.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So going into the MRI program, I was kind of nervous about how much physics there is in it, but there wasn't as much math as I thought there would be, which was kind of reassuring to me. But yeah, MRI is really good to go into if you kind of like problem solving or like playing doctor on yourself, because there's a lot of times when you're scanning and you kind of have to choose what coverage to do and what pathology you're looking at. So it's kind of cool doing that. Way different from X-ray, which is where I started, but it was a nice change. It's kind of cool to learn different modalities and how things work. Going through the program, yeah, it is like I did it online, so it was all self-taught. Well, not all of it, like a lot of it, but things don't really come together until the very end during the clinical, and then studying for the CMRT, then everything starts to click. And I also did like the bachelor's degree with it. So with that, an incentive for that with VCH, you do get a little bit more pay if you do have your degree. If you're working full-time, it's like an extra $100 a month. And then with that, I was also worried about the extra courses because they're not like anatomy, physiology, MRI based courses, but they are interesting, like the liberal arts courses, and it kind of helps you to think about moral issues and see how healthcare makes its decisions. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be either. I didn't have to write too many essays and stuff, which was nice. But overall, like I'm really happy with the career choice I'm in right now. And if you guys have any questions, like I'll be here to answer anything.
Perfect. Thank you, Cassidy. I promised that I wouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyways. Sorry. So Cassidy wrote her exam in January. So that's her national certification exam through the CMRT, who's the regulating body for our profession. And Cassidy ended up scoring the top score in Canada, which I'm super proud of. So yeah, if you have any questions for myself or Cassidy, we will have a Q&A at the end. If you wanted if you had questions or concerns from like the students' point of view. So we'll have that at the end of the presentation. So with this, I think the next few slides, I'm going to pass it back to Julie.
Hi, everybody. Now moving on from the academics, and first, can I just say, wow, Cassie, that's amazing. I would have led my presentation with that. But now moving on from the academics, I would like to let you know that BCIT is committed to supporting students in a holistic sense. We want you to succeed not only in your academics, but outside of school as well. Some of the student services are available to you as a prospective student, and others will be available to you once you become an enrolled student. Here are some of the important student supports that I'd like to mention. If you are Indigenous, BCIT's Indigenous Initiatives Department is there for you to ensure a smooth transition into your first year. They offer peer-to-peer mentorship, a welcoming gathering place, and provide clarification on Indigenous funding. BCIT awards, scholarships, and bursaries are listed on our financial aid and awards webpage. I would like to mention that we have our President's Entrance Award. Selection is based not only on academic achievement, but also volunteer and community service. Please contact financial aid directly for more information. We have an accessibility services department. BCIT's Health Services has a health clinic located on the campus. They provide medical care for our current BCIT students year-round. We have counseling and student development. We have a rec services department with a fully functioning gym, a racquetball court, a climbing wall, and a fully functioning change room and showers and everything. If you need to talk to program advising, if you have more questions or want to have some guidance along your path, please telephone or visit or make an appointment. Here's all their information. Again, you're going to get email this, so don't worry about writing it down or screenshotting it. But feel free, they're there for you, and they're great. Our social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So find us. We post a lot about our students, about events coming up, and things that are happening on campus. So if you want to stay connected with the School of Health, please follow us on social media. If you wanted to spend a day or come to another info session, there's the links as well. Now I open up the floor to our questions and answers. I know Maggie's been responding to quite a few of the questions in the chat. So Maggie, I'll let you just take the reign here and let us know if there's anything that maybe you weren't able to answer or that you wanted to address the entire group.
Sure. There's a question here probably going to be for Ray from Amir. It says, hi, everybody. Can we take clinical course and didactic at the same time, and which sites are approved by BCIT?
Yeah, so for both streams, both the advanced certificate program and the diploma program, you have to take all the didactic courses first before the clinical term. And you would have to have obviously successfully passed all the didactic courses before starting in clinical. The reason is to ensure that you have all the academic knowledge before going out to clinical. So that's the same for both streams. In terms of what sites we have approved by BCIT, we use all the major hospitals within the 4 health authorities. So anywhere in the Lower Mainland, we have, or sorry, I should say the 4 areas that we use, which is the Lower Mainland, Island Health, Northern, and Interior Health. So we have partners across BC, essentially. If you are taking the advanced certificate program, and if you are a student outside of BC, you will most definitely be able to select a clinical site where you live. You don't have to move out to BC in order to do your clinical term. You can do it at, most students will do it at the hospital that they are currently working at in whichever province that they practice in, and then they can complete their 16-week clinical there, and then we do all of our correspondence through email, Zoom, anything online that that can open up the line of communication between us and those students outside of the province.
Great, thank you. Another question for you, Ray. I've answered a few more, but this one would be for you. What makes an application stand out when it comes to the 3-to-1 applicant to seat ratio?
Yeah, on the program website, there under the entrance requirements area, I believe there is a list for shortlisting criteria. So some of the things that were mentioned were the 5-year recency, you know, for those courses. We do consider post-secondary education as a big asset. You know, whether you've completed a credential or not, this will help us determine if you have kind of developed, you know, this study skills, time management of, you know, of the rigors of a post-secondary, you know, course load, essentially. So we do take into consideration if you have any background in that, especially if you have post-secondary courses that are related to, you know, physics, anatomy, physiology, math, those type of things that are, you know, quite the focus of the program. Any sort of healthcare experience or volunteer work is always a huge asset. So if you've volunteered anywhere in the healthcare setting, if some of the applicants already work in the healthcare setting, just not in medical imaging, so like a medical office assistant, an LPN, right? We've had a few of those professions, you know, inquire about the diploma program. So if you have any volunteer work, if not in healthcare, but maybe even just in customer service, where you are working directly with customers, you know, responding to requests, you know, how to, I guess, deal with difficult situations with customers, that's also an asset. And within the that general questionnaire form, that's where you can put all that information in so that we are aware of what your experience is in order to shortlist applicants.
Great, yeah, so I don't see any more questions right now in the chat. So I'm not sure if anyone has any more last-minute questions before we sign off here. Again, you can always email, follow up with an email with your questions as well. Oh, hi, Kyra again. Yeah, no, it's just us in an academic advising, program advising, that we can answer most of your questions. If there's anything likely specific to probably the program content itself, we would defer to Ray, but you can definitely email us first with any initial questions. And if we need to follow up with Ray, we can do so on your behalf. That's no problem.
And with that, I would like to thank Ray, Harmon, Cassidy, Maggie, Aaron, and Darren for all supporting this event and making it happen. And I'd like to thank all of you for taking your time out this afternoon and attending. So please stay in touch and have a wonderful day.